Robert Morton, also Morton, Moriton, c. 1430 after the 13th of March 1479, was an English composer of the early Renaissance, mostly active at the Burgundian court. He was highly regarded at the time. Only secular vocal music, all rondeaux for three voices, survive. Life. Little can be reconstructed with certainty about his life except where his activity intersects with the Burgundian court. He was born in England, but no details of his early life are known. From 1457 until 1476 he was a clairechapelain in the chapel choir, and unusually he never was promoted to a higher position. By 1460 he was a priest, since he was given that title Messiah in chapel documents. The long relatively peaceful period at the court under Philip the Good's reign ended with Philip's death in 1467, and under his successor Charles the Bold, the musical activities of the court were seriously disrupted. Many of the singers and composers, including Hein van Gyschem, took part in his many futile military campaigns. Morton must have known Hein rather well, for an anonymous piece survives which describes the virtuosic singing and playing of the two of them together at Cambrai. Payment records for Morton end in 1476, and it was long assumed that he died then. However, more recent evidence from the Vatican archive shows that he was alive as late as 1479, since he resigned a Dutch parish then. There is a possibility, never established or fully investigated, that he may be the same Robert Morton who became Bishop of Worcester, and who died in 1497. Evidence for this connection includes the complete lack of documentation for the bishop between 1456 and 1476, when Morton was active in the Burgundian court, and the presence of Cardinal John Morton, uncle of the future bishop, in Burgundy at exactly the time when Robert disappears from the payment rolls. Music. Given the almost complete elimination of 15th-century music manuscripts in England, largely by Henri VIII during the dissolution of the monasteries in the 1530s, it is not surprising that most of Morton's music survives in sources from the continent. And if he was ever active as a musician in his native land, all traces lost. 8 pieces survive, all rondeaux. One of the most famous of them is the earliest known setting of the tune L'Homme Armé, which was used by many early Renaissance composers as a cantus firmus for the Mass. This piece, a quodlibet, is probably datable to May 1464. It seems to have been written as a departure gift for another court composer, Simon Le Breton. Another of his rondeaux, Le Souvenir de vous Michu, was exceedingly famous, and copies of this piece were widely disseminated in Europe. All of Morton's surviving music is in French. Not surprising since it all dates from his time in Burgundy. Melodically it is somewhat simpler than the music of his contemporaries such as Hein or Antoine Busnoy. The music theorist and writer Johannes Tinctories wrote glowingly of Morton, mentioning that he was world famous, even though much of his music must have been lost, including any sacred music. He seems to have been influential on other composers at the court of Burgundy, and several of his compositions were used as source material for masses by later composers, including Josquin des Prez. Works. Attribution considered secure. Cousin trop vous abuser. Rondeaux. 3 VV. Il sera pour vous combattu. L'Homme Armé. Quodlibet. Rondeaux. 3 VV. In another source a fourth voice is added. Le Souvenir de vous Michu. Rondeaux. 3 VV. Mon bien marjoyeur. Rondeaux. 3 VV. Enarija jamais milieu QJI. Rondeaux. 3 VV. Parachev Pan Entreprise. Rondeaux. 3 VV. Plus JI Le Monde. Rondeaux. 3 VV. Q Pourvoir plus faire une dame. Rondeaux. 3 VV. Doubtful. Say temps perdu. Il du Hastumpfangen mich. Also known as Vive Mardame par amours. Puis servicio vos displays. Venevante mort jolenta. David Falios. Robert Morton. The New Grove Dictionary of Music and Musicians. Ed. Stanley Sadie. 20 volume. London. Macmillan Publishers Limited. 1980. ISBN 1-56159-174-2. David Falios. Robert Morton. Grove Music Online ed. L. Macy. Access September 11, 2005. Subscription access. Gustav Reese. Music in the Renaissance. New York. W. W. Norton & Co. 1954. ISBN 0-393-09530-4. Free scores by Robert Morton. Composer. At the International Music Score Library Project.